welcome everybody to our Just Asking podcast. And my name is Sue Trombino with Women Impacting the Nation, of course. And I am joined today by one of our board members, Debbie Ferris. And we are very, very excited on bringing Debbie back to talk about a very, very important topic, and that is election integrity. And I say integrity in quotes. But Debbie, thanks for coming and jumping on our set today. And we're just asking a lot of questions, and we want you to tell our audience about what is happening. The last time we had you on here, we talked about how elections were so important and elections matter. If we don't have good elections and fair elections, then we really don't have a country, and we have a dictatorship like we do in Venezuela, because Debbie's from Venezuela, I'm from Venezuela. So we understand this very much. We understand the Banana Republic. But we have Debbie back on today because she has been working really diligently and very focused on the election bill that passed here in Florida. But she's working with a lot of...
Well, let me just say something, Sue, because I want to disassociate myself from the bill that passed in Florida.
Okay, we'll talk about that. What she talked about, what she's doing now with Defend Florida, she's with a lot of really great people behind the scenes trying to pass something that's really vital. So I want Debbie to, just welcome Debbie and talk about that.
Let me give everybody an update.
Yeah.
So Bill 7050 was what we call a must-pass bill because Governor DeSantis needed certain amendments in the law so that he could run for president without having to resign as governor. So that was what we call a must-pass bill because he pretty much instructed this needs to get done. Now, along with that, there was a slew of provisions that not only were damaging but took us back to took the gains that we had advanced in 2022. So this bill passed with those provisions, and I can just tell you, I call it the two-step dance. We had advanced one step, and now we're back two. Mm-hmm. So that's the status of 7050.
That was the first.
The bill that just passed in 2023. Okay. So when we got note of what was happening, we were able to eliminate certain provisions that were really, really bad, but we weren't able to do all the job. It had already gone through. The legislators were not going to budge. They were instructed, and so it was quite disappointing how this bill passed.
Okay, so explain to our audience, because I think a lot of people are very confused. Explain to our audience, number one, the election bill that passed. What is in that, and then what should, then tell them what should be really in
Yes. Well,
or the opposite.
Yes. So 7050 was the bill that passed in 2023 in the last session. It had a provision for Governor DeSantis to run for president without having to resign.
Okay, so wait a second. Why would somebody, I'm confused as to why does he have to put a provision in there to
otherwise
election integrity?
Otherwise he would have to resign.
Okay, so in the Florida Constitution, because a lot of states are different, but in Florida, in the Constitution, a governor cannot run for another office unless he resigned. And so in other words, for
him to be able
to run for president, he had to have a bill or somebody sign and amend that bill. Okay.
Correct.
And so they slipped in an amendment into the election integrity bill so that he could run.
So let's just start by saying it's not an election integrity bill.
Okay.
Let's call it, we need election security. There is no integrity in our elections, so we need election
That's
security.
That's why I put it in quotes, right?
Yes. So I'm not even doing that anymore because we really need to use proper language.
Yes.
So and we really don't have an issue with Governor DeSantis putting that provision. We want him to continue to do a better job as a governor, and so that would mean he wouldn't have to resign. We don't want him to have to resign. But that being said, because he necessitated this bill, and the legislators that facilitated it were aware of that, then other provisions that were mainly crafted by the lobbyist for the supervisors of election got their wishes in the bill. What was not included in the bill were the wishes of the people.
Okay, so tell everybody what is in the bill that passed.
No, that would be too
Oh,
much for me to
okay.
go over
Okay,
right now.
all right.
So there's articles and there's information on that. I just couldn't
You
go through
actually,
that.
you can, you have an article on
Yes,
that on
it's
your
called
Substack.
Razor Blades.
Okay, so Razor Blade. So what we're going to do is on womenimpactingthenation.org, you can go onto our blog and you can find Debbie's, article on Razor.
It's called Razor Blades because it's
Razor
like razor
blades.
blades baked into the cake.
Oh, kind of like jail. So, okay, you
Yes.
just kind of slip it
Yes.
in there. Oh,
I'll-
okay.
You know, so let's move forward because that bill did not close the loopholes that were needed to secure the elections here in Florida. So what we're doing now is moving forward and actually crafting all of the issues in terms of transparency, in terms of eligibility, and in terms of custody, chain of custody. We're calling it the et cetera.
So what you're saying is that our elections are not secure and safe and transparent in Florida right now.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm going to just give as an example, I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen. I went through the process of becoming a legal U.S. citizen. I do not want my legal vote to be diluted by someone that has not gone through that process. Well, right now in Florida, there are ways for non-citizens to be added to the voter rolls and then to vote. And those are loopholes,
So
technicalities that need to be closed.
So will we be able to get the legislators that voted for this bill, or is it all of them that voted for this bill?
So all of them pretty much voted for this bill. It's
They
considered
probably didn't read it,
well
because how can you allow an illegal?
No. Maybe they did not read it, but they were very much put on notice. There were teams of citizens that went to Tallahassee. I personally spent 7 hours with a legislator explaining to him why certain provisions and amendments were needed, and they did not pass those
Can we
amendments.
talk about who did it? Who you talk with?
I spoke to Rick Roth.
Rick Roth, and he's a legislator.
Yes.
And you spent 7 hours with him explaining why they needed
2
to.
conference calls, one of 4 hours, one of 3 hours. He had the 10 amendments that we had requested on the bill, and then later was told that he could only introduce 2. Leadership told him only 2.
Okay, so we have to get down to the bottom, and I'm sure we'll do another podcast on this, because we really do need to get down to the bottom line of why are they doing this?
Well, I'm not going to put myself in their heads. I'm just saying what we need to do. And as citizens, one of the things where we have failed, we have absconded our responsibility is to holding these elected officials responsible. And how do you do that? By telling them. So right now what we have created is a 1-page document that has approximately 19 points that need to be addressed in the next legislative session. And these 19 points are backed with all of the information that you would need to amend the statutes. And so what we're asking citizens is to participate. Download a copy of this, make an appointment with your legislator. You do not have to be an expert, but they need to know that the citizens are concerned and that these are the talking points, and establish a conversation with your elected official, either your senator or your representative. And that is an action that everybody can take because we've made it really, really easy. We have a step-by-step how to do it. We have training videos, and all we're asking is
Where do you get the training videos, Debbie?
you go onto the Defend Florida website, and there are training videos there. There's also a checklist, what to do, how to do this.
Is the 1-pager on the Defend?
And the 1-pager is on the Defend Florida website.
So it's defend.org.
Florida.org.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But because this is really, really important, because right now what we do here at our podcast, just asking, is we're asking a lot of questions. There might be some questions that seem silly to you or whatever, but we have to ask questions, and that's the problem. We're afraid to ask questions because people don't want to answer the questions that we have, and so we have got to, as we the people, start holding our legislators accountable. You've got to learn to call all of them and say, what are you doing? Because no matter which area they're in, they still represent what they decide represents all of us really in Florida, right?
Yes.
But
But how would they know if we don't show up?
that's exactly right. So
And so-
isn't that what we do at WIN? When
Yes,
we show up,
we win.
win? Oh, okay.
And so right now, the effort that we're leading, that I'm involved in, is we're asking, and we have people from all counties, all 67 counties in Florida, meeting with making an appointment with their legislator and taking this list. And you don't have to be an expert. You just have to be concerned enough to have this conversation and see where they stand. Are they in agreement that we have election security issues? Do they feel that we actually have the golden state, it's the golden standard of elections? Are they aware that there are any problems? Do they have any solutions? And it's establishing that relationship. So we have a team that's doing that, and then we ask all citizens to get back to us and give us feedback so that we know who has been contacted and what their response is. And we're keeping a note of that because we want to know, and we want to later on possibly hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
They all voted for a previously bad legislation, and they knew that it was not favorable, and they did it anyways. We call it a bad vote, and the Republican Liberty Council does a phenomenal job in keeping track of who's voting and
Who's
doing
that?
what. It's the RLC. I think it's the Republican Liberty either caucus or council.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're looking at their scorecard, and they got a D on this one.
So, can you tell us? I mean, why? I mean, we have to understand why is it bad? What's wrong with this bill? So we have, give us just a couple of different things that's really bad with this.
One really bad thing is that through a series of mechanisms, depending on how the voter registers, their citizenship is not checked. So you could conceivably have someone who's not a citizen registering to vote. In addition to that, the requirements to prove that you are a citizen are very precise. You have a passport, a U.S. passport, a birth certificate, or a certificate of naturalization, or a certificate of birth abroad. And this is what you should be presenting to prove that you're a citizen. Instead, some avenues do not require this. They require a social security or a driver's license. But the driver's license, students that are coming here legally here to go to school, legal workers have a driver's license. It's not a proof of citizenship. Meanwhile,
but they can use that.
They can use that to register. And meanwhile,
and they're not legal. So now you have illegal.
But
they're not legal citizens, and so therefore they can technically, legally, they can vote, but they really aren't citizens, and they're changing really the laws.
Well, and then on the supervisors of elections, when they say we verified citizenship, well, what they verified is that someone checked the box and said that I am a citizen. But imagine someone that is new to this country, that doesn't read the fine print and doesn't understand the language, and someone says, you know what, check this box. You'll check it, and there you go. So you could have a lot of,
because there isn't any corruption. I mean, there isn't any corruption in the drivers, as in the supervisor of elections. No, we don't have any of that here. So we're just trusting them to believe that. Oh yes, trust. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh boy.
So they're verifying that someone checked the box, but they're not verifying that whoever checked the box is really a citizen.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you have opportunities, well, not opportunities, but if you don't have a social security, if you don't have a driver's license, you can prove your identity with your neighborhood association card, your student card.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
It's just
like, is this silly?
It's worse than silly. It's pathetic.
It's appalling, actually.
It's pathetic.
But you made a comment earlier, Debbie, that the reason we're in this mess is because, and let's be real, and we hear at, whether it's our Win Talk Radio or it's on our Just Asking podcast, is that we really like to talk truth and really get the reality out there, and we may step on some people's toes. That's okay, but we have to ask questions. And the question I have is, why are we in this mess? The reason we're in this mess is because the people aren't showing up. We're very comfortable in the United States. I hate to say it, but we're spoiled, and we just assume everybody's going to do the right thing, and we don't realize that the powers that be, they're really trying to. It's all about money. It's about power. They want control, And therefore, they're going to cheat, lie, steal, and yes, there was cheating in this election. And if you want to call us, election deniers, I guess that's the talking point. But even Helen Keller can see right through the fact that there was so much cheating, and the fact that people don't want to go back to try to fix it. That should be a red flag to people, don't you think, Deb?
One of the things I just gave us a talk actually a week ago, and it was contrasting what happened in Venezuela with what I see happening in this country.
Mhm.
And I'm going to just say one of the biggest regrets of my Venezuelan friends is that they did not get involved. And when they
Mhm.
chose to get involved, it was too late. The Constitution had been changed,
Yeah.
the elections had been cheated, and now 8 million Venezuelans are living outside of the country.
Mhm. And
25%.
Yeah, we have we have Weston down here. It's not called Weston anymore.
It's
It's called
called
Westenzuela.
Yes.
But what's funny is that let's bring it to kind of reality. I'm sure everybody has watched, or maybe not, but there's a series on Netflix. Not that I really like Netflix, but there's a great series. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's called Jack Ryan. And it's a whole series. Now there is one of the series, one of the episodes it's a whole thing on what's happening in Venezuela. And when you watch that, and there's a woman that is running against the incumbent, the kind of like the Maduro, the Chavez, and the Fidel Castro kind of guy who's been there forever and cheats and lies and steals, and the people are all rising up, and you can tell the people have had it. They really want this woman because her husband actually was the one that's supposed to be running, but he's been kidnapped and taken away by the Maduro kind of guy. Anyway, when I watched that show, I looked at my husband, I said, you have got to be kidding me. This is like exactly what they do, and this is exactly what's happening here in the United States. And it's because we have been disengaged and disinterested because we don't want to get involved in politics. But let me tell you what you just said, Debbie, is that in 1962 and 63, that's when they took prayer and Bible out of the school. One woman did that, and actually it was pastors. 1962 and 63 is when it came to fruition, but it was pastors that were telling their congregation not to get involved in politics. And that's all of a sudden, people weren't engaged, or we're not supposed to be engaged. No, you're supposed to be engaged in your civic duty. And if you choose not to get involved in your civic duty, then it's your fault that we're in the mess that we're in. Now, I'm not pointing the finger at you all, because if I point the finger at you, I got 3 pointing back at myself. But, Debbie, we all know, all of us that have lived from Cuba to Venezuela to, goodness gracious, look at Brazil, look at any place overseas from, Europe and all that. We understand, we have lived the Banana Republic. And this is exactly what's happening when you have the less than 1% of the elite that they have control of the media and all this stuff, and then keep saying, when you repeat something over and over and over enough times, people are going to believe it. Oh, you're an election denier, you're election denier, you're election denier. And you're like, well, maybe there really wasn't that much cheating. Oh, when you have the media behind you, when you have the rhinos, when you have the demon rats, when you have all that, that should be a red flag. And we really need to pay attention to this, because Debbie always says it, but in the next less than 14 months, we're now July.
We have a very narrow window.
We have a very narrow, but
very, very
we're going to
narrow
be
window.
Venezuela on steroids.
Yes.
We really are. So we're gonna come back, because I want to continue this talk with Debbie on the election security that they're doing with Defend Florida and getting people engaged. But we have got to be engaged. Make a phone call, get involved. We have what's called Call One Day. Go to womenimpactingthenation.org, go onto our website, get onto our Call One Day, which is a simple text that we give you. We'll give you the talking points, and all you have to do is make the phone call. That's it. You're just reading what to do, but get involved, get engaged, because if we don't show up, we're not going to win. And you're going to have regrets. And this is a slippery slope. Once you go down this road, we will not be able to roll, the snowball back up the hill. It just is not going to happen. And there's never been a country, and we're a republic, but there's never been a country that is coming back. Look at Venezuela.
There
But anyway,
is
we're
no
gonna
coming
we're
back.
gonna end on that note and come right back. We're gonna take a station break real quick, and but go to womenimpactingthenation.org, like and share this podcast of Just Asking, because that's all we're doing is just asking questions, stirring the pot, and getting people to think. But we'll be right back with Debbie Ferris on election security.